I'll call this meeting of the Camarillo Sanitary District Board of Directors to order and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Director Kildee. Director McDonald. Director Morgan. Secretary Little.
Here.
Chairman Craven.
Here. Mrs. McDonald, could you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. With your right hand over your heart, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public comments. I don't have any cards. Excuse me. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to the Camarillo Sanitary District Board of Directors? Seeing no one come forward, we'll go on to the consent calendar.
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Comments from staff? Comments from board members? Meeting adjourned. To November 16th at 5 p.m.
Camera, City Council, please. I think that's on.
Yeah.
Would the Camera City Council please come to order? Let the record reflect that all City Council members are present. Are there any amendments to the agenda, Mr. City?
Mr. Mayor, we would like to move the 7:30 presentation to the presentation time for 5 o'clock at this time.
No problem. Any other amendments to the agenda for anyone? Seeing one, we'll move to the presentations. We do have a presentation here this evening. Eva Gomez.
Thank you, Mayor Morgan. Good evening, everybody. Council members, Vice Mayor, City Manager, et al. My name is Eva Gomez. I'm the Director of Annual Giving and Special Gifts at your university, California State University, Channel Islands. The City of Camarillo supports us in a scholarship, named scholarship, the City of Camarillo Endowed Scholarship. And tonight, we would like to present, for those that were not able to be with us on September for our scholarship reception, I want to say that Mayor Morgan and Councilmember Little were there, so I hope you had a great time. And we were super excited because for the first time in a long time, you guys were able to join us.
Your entertainment was great.
Thank you, wasn't it? Yes. That was faculty and students, so we are very proud of that. But for those of you who were not able to join us that night, we did take a video of the 5 students that are your students because you support them with a scholarship. And they really just wanted to say thank you. And along with us, and on behalf of our president, Dr. Erica Beck, thank you for your continued support. As I mentioned earlier today, we are one of the CSUs that our sister campuses envy us because we have such great rapport and support from our city. So thank you very much for that. So without any further ado, I would like to present you your students.
Hi, on this beautiful September afternoon. Really lovely event. Can we hear it for Dr. Saul Murphy and the Seattle Performing Arts students? So for those of you I have not had the pleasure of meeting in person, I am Erica Beck and I am honored to be the president of California State University, Channel Islands. I am so pleased to be with you on what is my first scholarship reception here on campus. So let's hear it for the scholarship reception. Channel Islands is here to help us be the best at whatever we want to be the best at. And I can truly see that from the president to the directors, staff, and faculty, and in the donors that are here tonight. You as donors have truly given us students a gift that we cannot repay, except with the commitment to honor that gift by giving 100% of ourselves to this time that we have here at Channel Islands. So again, on behalf of the students here tonight, whose lives you have impacted for the better, I want to say Thank you.
We are the recipients for the City of Camarillo Endowed Scholarship, and we're here to say thank you so much for your generous donation.
Thank you.
And I'm a freshman here at Channel Islands, and my major is health science, and I just wanted to say thank you for your donations.
I'm a first year here at Cal State University Channel Islands. My major here is Bachelor's of Science Biology, and I just want to thank you so much for your generous donation. What I'm planning to do after I get my degree is attend graduate school, so it's crucial for me right now to manage my finances, and your scholarship will definitely help me out. Thank you so much.
My name is Elena Bray, and I am a junior here at CSU, and I want to thank you so much for your generous donation.
Hi, my name is Sarah Wortman. I'm a freshman here at Channel Islands, and I just want to say thank you so much. Hi, my name is Catherine Eakin. I'm a third year here at Channel Islands. My major is biochemistry, and I just want to say thank you so much for your generous donation. I appreciate it, and it sets my goal even more towards PhD in biochemistry. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your support. Those are your students. We could not do it without you. That day, we had close to about 400 people there. As you can see, 185 students. That's very impactful. Thank you. I mean, just really from the bottom of my heart, our president's heart, and the students. You really do make a difference, and for that, we are internally grateful.
Mr. Mayor. Any questions, any comments? Thank you very much. Very good, Ava. Okay, the next item on our agenda is time for a consent calendar. Any motions or comments?
Move the approval.
Second. We have motions.
I have a question.
You have a
on one,
question?
If I could ask before you.
Yes, Jen.
It was on item C, and it's just a question. I was just wondering, and obviously you've looked at all the bids, but there was such a huge discrepancy between the two. Basically, almost twice as much between the first and the second. I'm sorry, that's the award of your the street signs.
Right.
Any reason why there was such a huge difference?
To the fourth one, you mean?
Right. Well, yeah, it was almost double the one we were awarding.
Right. None real apparent that, and we, being that it was the fourth and the highest bid, we analyzed all bids to make sure they're fully responsive and everything. But as far as digging into the details as to why this particular contractor chose to price things a certain way, we didn't dig into those details at this time.
But they were all, well, each one went up like $3,000 or $4,000 between them all.
Right.
But we're all bidding the same thing, and all the equipment's the same, and no.
Right.
Okay.
One of the factors that always is, and I think I might have explained it before in a staff report, but just in general, the bidding climate is very dynamic, and even a contractor's workload at a given time can have an effect on the prices that they'll bid. So.
Okay, I just wanted to check. Thank you.
Okay, now do we have a motion?
I had a motion.
I had a motion, I just had a question.
Okay, I thought she interrupted the second. Who's the second?
It was down there. I think it was Kevin.
Kevin's second? Okay. Any other comments? Please vote. That motion passes 5-0. No city council items or other departmental items. We do have city manager. City manager?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is pertaining to the fiscal year 2016-2017 request for funding for Studio Channel Islands Art Center. Last year, the council awarded $29,650 to Channel Islands Art Center for a variety of free public programs to assist them with their program funding. Those program expenses included school field trips, First Saturday Open Studios and gallery receptions, annual holiday market, and Arts Alive. For these same programs, they are asking for an appropriation of $29,750. They have made some changes to how the money is spent between those various programs to account for the expenses through those programs. I do need to bring to your attention that the City Council will be starting its discussion on cultural arts funding starting November 16th. We'll be having a study session to kick off that issue and that discussion, and then it'll be referred to, I'm recommending it be referred to Policy Committee so that an appropriate policy can be drafted for how we account for cultural arts funding. However, given the timing of the events for Studio Channel Islands. They do have a winter event that they are requesting funding for, and typically we would be cutting them a check soon after that event to cover their expenses. That would not be the case if we were to hold off on funding them at this time. And so that'll be something you'll need to consider. However, it does seem as though their balance sheet indicates that they do have sufficient monies available to be able to make it through the winter season without funding being immediately available. This was not a budgeted expenditure. It was something that I did anticipate having to bring to you at this time without having it budgeted, specifically because the City Council did not, at the time this was awarded, did not see it as being a continuously budgeted award. And so it is coming back individually at this time. And that appropriation, if approved, would be for $29,750. It is a general fund expense.
Mr. Mayor.
Comments? Mr. Bill Little?
Yes, I'm not sure that, but I recall the discussion. I'm not sure that we specifically talked about it as an ongoing expense, but we certainly, I believe the conversation was that we were looking at it as more than just a one-time deal. I mean, I certainly did. And thought it.
Yes, I believe that's true. However, I did not take direction as meaning that it would be budgeted without further discussion.
Well, that's why it's here tonight.
Correct.
Okay.
Other comments? Jan?
I have a couple of questions, and maybe I'll start with my comment. I think a city manager made the note that they do have sufficient funds to go forward, and for that reason, I would like to see, perhaps suggest that we wait until after we have our discussion on the criteria we're going to use. And I will give you an example of what caught my attention when I was looking at it. I have no problem supporting their public programs, because as long as it's for the public, free, open to the general public, anyone can come, then those are the kind of things that we appropriately could fund. But the thing that caught my eye was when we went to the school field trips.
Can you tell us what page?
And let's see, which one was I looking at? It would be page 7. So when I went to the school field trips and looked at a total of 363 students served, I thought of the question I hear several of you ask every time we do our regular grant cycle, is how many students from Camarillo? And of those 363, only 51 of them come from schools within the city of Camarillo. So that kind of triggered my thought process, as maybe it needs to be part of the discussion on whether that is one of the criteria is for this kind of grant. I know it is very much one for our normal grant cycle. So I call that to your attention. And the other couple of things that caught my eye was requesting that we pay for ABC licenses and beer. I'm not sure that's the appropriate thing for the city of Camarillo to be funding as well. So those were the two things that caught my eye and made me think perhaps this needs to be discussed first and then figure out exactly what we can fund and bring it back when we have a little more information.
Mr. Mayor.
Kevin?
Yeah, maybe it's a question for the city attorney, but when we receive some verbiage on this, the gift of public funds, was this be considered a gift of public funds?
No.
My understanding it was not.
Yeah, it would not be a gift of public funds. We did review this, and the public, what you need to do when you spend public money is have a public purpose, and based on our review of the matter, we've concluded that there is definitely a public purpose here in many ways. There's the cultural benefit, the educational benefit, and as well as the economic benefit that would arise from attracting customers to the area. So it was our conclusion that there is definitely a public purpose to the expenditure of these funds. The one question that's being asked is to what extent can there be some indication of the programs or expenses that could be paid for by these funds, and Councilmember McDonald has mentioned one. So if there was a way to ensure that the funds were being spent only on those public purposes that the council finds to be acceptable based on the standards that I've described, then that could be done in the form of a motion. If there's going to be an approval of this item, you could handle that, I believe, through the motion on the item, or if the will of the council was to bring it back to have more definitive answer on that, that could be done as well.
Jen, you were about to any comments more about that?
No, I just think those are the issues that I saw in looking at it. I'm more, I think they do great service, and I think from a cultural standpoint, it's a great asset to the city. There were just a couple of things I wasn't quite sure that should fall under our grant.
A lot of those outsider trips come from SOMAS.
Well, that's not in the city of Camarillo, last time I checked.
SOMAS is like our neighbor forever, that we've been part of it, against our high schools and everything else. Yes.
And Santa Rosa Tech School.
Yeah.
It's in the Pleasant Valley School District,
Not
in the city of Camarillo.
I know it, but when we talked about first aid kits or whatever, earthquake kits, and I brought up that they were not in the city, everybody said, hey, wait a minute, they're part of our school district. So I think if we're going to count them for one thing, we need to count them for the other thing.
And 24 and 29 more. I was just also I'm hoping maybe this year, maybe if we talk about this, that we can get more of our students here in the city to participate in it. It's a great program, but, they've got schools from Oxnard and so forth. So.
But this is just a small part of the...
Yeah, very small.
Well, it's $2,400 that's the one program, their field trip program.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Little?
Well, first of all the kids at SOMAS generally would end up at Camarillo High School at some point in time. So I consider them just a feeder district to Camarillo. And the others, Santa Rosa, we've talked about, Santa Rosa Technical. So I think that they're pretty well inside the city. We can ask them to make a better effort to go after more students within the city itself, the city elementary schools that are there. But and I would think that if we could approve this, we should approve it with the understanding that they would be subject to the guidelines that is developed by this council at a subsequent meeting. So
would you like to make that a motion?
I'll make it a motion.
Just for clarification, before we go too far down that road, recognize that the council will not have put together a policy before their first event is complete. And so their holiday market, for example, would be their first event. Typically, what we did last year is we paid them for holiday. We paid them in 2 tranches. The first tranche was for holiday market, and then the second tranche was for the other programs later on, in the next calendar year. So if you're comfortable with the programs, in the holiday market and are willing to pay the $5,000 for that, then that makes sense. That makes sense. That can work.
Yes.
That might be a good idea to split it up.
That's fine with me.
You asked, Your Honor, if that was a motion. I'd like to hear if there's anybody in the public.
Well,
who'd like
I was just going to say before we vote,
we get a motion.
Before we vote, I'd like to have someone come forward. Peter, I'm sorry, Peter, I can't read that. Peter something.
It's Peter Tyus.
Tyus?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
I am a Camarillo resident. My wife has a more convincing Camarillo accent than I do. I'm the new executive director for Studio Channel Islands, and I was been listening to your discussion, and I would like to provide some clarity, if I could, on the 2 points that Jan, you raised. Firstly, with the school trips, I believe that's an abnormal selection of. It's an unfortunate and abnormal selection in that normally we'd work more with students within Camarillo. And my plans for the next year are certainly to reach directly into the local schools, not least for the reason that my daughters go to the local schools. When it comes to the beer and wine licenses, those budgets are the full event budget rather than an allocation of Camarillo funds line by line within that budget. So we, with the budget being larger than the allocation per event, we can certainly identify which strands of work are being supported by the city and make sure that we don't have you buying a round for everybody. Before you go to voting on the motion, I would like to raise some of the outcomes that this support would go to achieving. We've already talked about the engagement of young people in creative activities. We're all aware of the reduction of time that students get within schools for participating in high-quality creative activities. So we're very pleased at the studio that we have professional artists that can provide that activity and work with our schools. And the support from the city enables us to have a long-term relationship with those schools, so we can build lessons, we can build contacts, we can build projects. So it's not just a one-off experience. What you're funding with that field trip is the beginning of a relationship with those schools, and we're very pleased to pick that up outside of the funding that the city might provide. We do hope that we enliven the quality of life for everybody in the city by offering these free activities, particularly at the holiday time, and next year within the Arts Alive event. Those activities, we believe, create a very positive perception of the city outside within the wider county, and we hope that that goes some way towards drawing businesses to relocate into Camarillo or to support people to move into this area because they see it as a vibrant and lively place where they would choose to live. And so the last point that I'll make as the clock ticks down is that we would hope that we can become a stronger part within the economy of the city through supporting businesses to relocate and to retain high-quality staff members, but also through playing a stronger role on the boulevard by providing events and activities that draw people in and create a real sense of a dynamic and an exciting place to live and to do business. Thank you.
Other comments? One thing. I got to ask you before you leave, how's your comedy night working?
It's going very well. We had just over 100 people in last time, and the next event will be in mid-December to avoid Thanksgiving and Christmas. Mm-hmm. But yes, it's going very well.
It just seems like I hear people talking about it and thinking that's what we need. We need a comedy place. So thank you.
We can make sure you get an invitation if you like.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments? Motions?
I'll renew my motion.
Could you say it again so we know exactly what it is?
It's to approve the request, subject to the fact that the whatever is the city council determines to be the policies dealing with these public art grants would apply to this one as well as to all the others. So it's, and that I think that's the essence of it.
Let me ask
Clarification. Based on my last comments on this,
I liked it.
What I foresee happening with this particular grant this one time is a bifurcated approach. It's going to evolve into that. And so if you want to have them paid for holiday market, their $5,000, I'm going to do that based on their accounting of the program to me to substantiate that $5,000. When we get into cultural arts funding, it can really have a different approach, similar to, for example, community services grants in terms of, here's our proposal, this is, what the city can, will fund, won't fund, that type of thing. There's an accounting at the end. The rest of their funding that they would be proposing in this proposal would come under the auspices of that system. Is that understood?
Could I just say one thing?
Yes.
Sometimes we're pretty slow at putting together policies, especially when we're starting from scratch. So what happens if we haven't formed a policy by the end of the fiscal year? Or approved
If you
one?
can't do this by the end of the fiscal year, no, seriously.
I've seen sometimes when we throw them back to committee and they come.
Right. I am confident that this body is going to be able to come up with a viable policy in time. Our goal with this process is to be able to match it to the same schedule as community services grants so that it can be incorporated into the budget. That's our goal. And so right after council makes its appointments for reorganization to policy committee, I'm going to be calendaring a policy committee meeting to start this process.
Okay.
I have a comment to make on the motion. It seems from what I'm hearing that the council's inclined to approve the, was it the $5,000 for the market?
Yes, that's
request
correct.
Tonight. And then the balance, holiday market, and then the balance of the funds would be subject to the policy that is coming up and would be prepared in the future. And so my recommendation would be to ensure that we're satisfying the public purpose requirements, is that the motion tonight be limited to the $5,000 for the holiday market, and then when you've got your policy together and you know how you're going to spend the balance of the money, you could bring back that item along with the approval of the policy, and it would all be tied together.
That would actually be the cleanest way to do that, to ensure the public purpose of the remainder of their events.
I want to make something clear, because from what I'm hearing, you said to tie it in with the applications for community service grants. However, those are for next year. So it's still going to be different than the community service grants, because we're talking about this fiscal year. So we'll have to bring it back and make a decision. Is that correct? On this one only after the policy is adopted.
Correct.
But for the following fiscal year, it would be the same as the community service.
Yeah.
I just want to make.
No, you're absolutely right. There is that timing anomaly with this particular one.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
my intent was to approve the entire amount, so I'm going to withdraw my motion from that. I think I've looked over the application. I see no reason why we have to go through this, taking it apart and doing this.
Would someone like to make a different motion?
So there's no motion on the floor then?
No, he took it off for.
Oh, we never had a second? Okay.
Well, there's a little bit of clarification what that potential first motion was to approve the $5,000.
Well, my motion was to approve the request for the $29,000 or $27,000, whatever it was.
If that was a motion, I would have seconded it.
Well, I made the motion to approve the request.
Well, you withdrew it.
Well, I did now because apparently it's.
I'm going to try this. I'll make a motion to approve the $5,000 for the holiday market with the direction that this come back to the City Council for review of the remainder of the budget. Would you want me to give a time or just, because would that?
No, that's sufficient.
No.
Just to bring it back?
Yes.
For this current year.
For this current year, but
Correct.
not, we can't wait too long because they might need their money, so.
Well, I'll wait to my discussion until you get a second.
Okay.
You haven't gotten a second.
Then let me clarify my motion. Then I will make a motion to approve the $5,000 for the holiday market and direct staff to bring back the remainder of the request after the first of the year. How about that?
That'd be fine.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. And yet, now your comments, Charlotte.
Okay. I understand that a policy committee meeting will be made at the very beginning, which is going to be January sometime. It's hard to schedule them in December after our meeting on the second Wednesday, although we might meet in December. Staff might be ready to go with the recommendation, but usually, I have never seen a beginning policy go from that first meeting straight to council. We usually bring it back and talk, and because there are various things to consider, especially if this is going to be wrapped in with community service grants.
It's not going to be wrapped in.
No, it'll be a separate process. However, the justification process would be similarly. It'll be built on the same model. So it's not the same calendar. It's not the same process. It'll be close to it, but as soon as we get that policy done, we can bring it forward. We don't have to wait until later on in the year.
Well, just having seen how things go, and I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but I'm thinking.
Let me offer this.
I'm thinking February is going to be the soonest we get a policy to the council.
And that may be true, but progress will have been made. I can certainly discuss that with the council. By that time, I can iron out any problems or misgivings you may have about ABC licenses, different things like that, and I can bring this independently again, absent a policy. So, I can work this out.
Okay, I think that's fine. Where I was going with my conversation was, I'd hate for us to delay till May, and they're going all year and not knowing if they're going to get this $29,000 or not.
I honestly don't think it's going to take you until
No,
May to
I
get
don't
this
either.
done.
I think staff's heard what we're saying.
I absolutely
And I
understand
don't
what
think
you're
it's going to
saying.
be
Staff doesn't
delayed.
develop policies. 2 council members in a committee do, and then bring it to a council.
I think that they'll be rushing this for us.
I think we all heard.
So
Mr.
we've heard them.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have the same concerns that Council Member Craven has. I think we're getting into a bureaucratic situation here, and I just hate to see it. We approved this last year. It worked fine. They spent the money. Everything went off fine. I don't know why we have to single this out and say we're going to do something different on it.
I don't think we're singling them out. I think this is how we will begin to handle all of these kind of requests, is my understanding where this policy is going. And I would suggest doing, I don't think it's going to slow them down. And if you go back to the community service grants, they have to pay up front and then get reimbursed. So that's how, look at the hospital, the same thing. They had to wait until they had, that invoice in hand. So this is actually helping them more than you would probably other organizations. So I think we make the commitment that it comes back, no questions, you bring it back to us. It's not like we're not going to address it. But I think from the public standpoint and the perception, I think taking the single one first and not just lumping it all into there makes it cleaner, makes it more, I don't like that word because you hear it so much, but more transparent and more straightforward.
I think the city attorney had some to offer on that too, along that same line.
Exactly.
So we'd have 2 professionals giving us a little opinion along that same line of thought. We have a motion and we have a second. Any other comments?
Are you asking for the city
Can I make a
attorney to
comment
say
on that?
something?
No,
or
he
not?
did.
He already did.
He
He
already
already
did.
said to use the 5, to do
Yeah,
the
I
5.
already expressed my views on this. Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
That's why I'm saying those comments.
Can I
Yes.
make a comment? So the reason why I seconded the motion, it appeared to me that we could give them the $5,000, but once we develop this policy, if they prove that there's more programs, we're not married essentially to the $29,500. We can lessen that, or we can actually increase that if there's more programs that they've got too. So that's the reason why I seconded that motion, that we could have a further look on this.
Right.
All right, any other comments? Please vote. That motion passes 5-0. Okay, we have a short agenda this evening. Thank you for coming. Nice comments, and nice meeting you. We'll see you at comedy night sometime. Now we'll move into closed session. Mr. City Attorney, would you like to talk about our closed session?
Yes, our closed sessions this evening, we're going to have a conference with real property negotiator. That's authorized by Government Code Section 54956.8. The property is the former library on Ponderosa. The agency negotiators and negotiating parties are identified in the agenda, and under negotiation are price and terms of payment. We have another conference with real property negotiator, the same legal authority. This property is the proposed hotel conference center. Agency negotiator and negotiating parties listed in the agenda. Also under negotiation are price and terms of payment. And then finally, we have a conference with legal counsel under anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2. The number of cases is 2.
Okay. New business. Mr. City Manager, you have anything to comment?
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
City Attorney?
No comment.
Any other city staff down need to make anything, say anything? Okay, we'll start with Kevin this evening.
Yeah, I've had, and I'm sure everybody else has, a couple of calls about Camarillo Springs, and I know we probably can't say too much about it other than the fact that there was an article in the paper, and I'm sure most, if not all of us, have read that, and we're very cognizant of the situation out there as far as the golf course and what's happening with golf this day and age. So, we're obviously going to be following that very closely. Political signs, our favorite subject up here. I know there's been a lot of them that are put around the city, and my hope is that most, if not all, do have permission from where they put them. And if they're not, I would hope that the would do something about that. I know all of us through the years that we've done this, have tried to get as much permission as we can. I understand that you can't always get that, but you try. And, you know, as I go around and, you know, kind of look at my signs and put them back up where they once were, you know, that's, there's a lot of signs this year, and I understand that. But I'm hoping that, you know, whoever has any feelings and thoughts about the political signs can understand that they take a lot of work to put up. I did go
Kevin,
down
can
on...
I start
sure.
right there? I want to address what you're saying a little
Sure.
bit. Because after last election, I made the comment that we ought to look at our ordinance. When your signs are out, and like you know, many of them are out there in the wrong spot. I'm talking about on public property. They get taken up, they come in and give them the next day, and they're out there again. We need to look at how long we can hold on to those signs, or keep them, but do something with the signs. So just give them out the next day, cause our staff extra work, and they end up doing the same thing. And I'd like to have us look at that after this election's over.
We have a sign ordinance at study session.
No, okay, yeah, but I want to make sure we get into that part of it. Go ahead.
Also, just a slurry. Thank Dave and his staff for looking into that issue on Arneal. I think it's looking really good there. Drove on the project on Santa Rosa, and it seems to be coming along. Dave, maybe if you want to talk a little bit about where they are in that process here. I know they were paving pretty substantially yesterday, so...
Different every time you go.
Right.
Yeah.
The final paving for the majority of this section was placed yesterday with the new rubberized asphalt on the overlay and new pavement sections. And the median construction is done. The landscaping and irrigation within the median is occurring now. The rest of the pavement within the project limits, west of Adobe to just past between the last Leisure Village signal and Upland, that stretch of existing pavement will be slurry sealed. So we'll have a continuum of fresh asphalt and slurry seal for the project limits. That slurry seal is expected to occur in the next week or two. Final dates being figured out right now with this contractor. So final items of work are proceeding. Landscaping will swing into full gear within the median and along the walls. Some fencing still to go up, but it's down to the last items of work. Contractor schedule at this point is through the end of November, barring any other unforeseen items that come up, but we don't expect anything major.
Okay.
Good.
Thanks. And I did not attend any meetings since the last meeting we had a week ago. Yeah.
You've been too busy. Bill?
I didn't attend any meetings either. I was busy. But just to add my comments to the political sign ordinance, we seem to have people out there who are taking it upon themselves to make sure that there's no signs at different locations. And I just hope that we can find the stockpile at some point in time, because there's a lot of them been taken. Anyway, a couple of comments. Camarillo Springs, that golf course has been around for 50 years. It's been an asset to this community. It certainly serves the a group of people in our community that have been using that for a long time, and it certainly deserves to stay in place as far as I'm concerned. Santa Rosa Road, I don't think I've ever seen a project that the traffic safety issues of moving traffic through there has been done as well as that project did. I mean, it was amazing. I would look back to when a year ago last December when this thing started, and I can't remember, other than a couple days, that there was any real delay in that getting through there. It was amazing. That contractor really knew how to, and the plan that was prepared and approved to move the barricades and the traffic and everything was absolutely marvelous. So you're to be commended, as is Granite Construction. And finally, I just, I know this is an important election for a lot of reasons, but there's one reason I would urge people to give serious consideration to, and that's the proposition dealing with legalizing marijuana. I think it is going to, it would be, I saw a film on the experience in Colorado, and it's really bad, and it not only is violations occurring all over, driving and so forth, but also it's getting down into the younger populations through sweets that have been laced with marijuana, and you don't know it until you eat it. So I urge the people of this city, I'm not sure that it's not going to pass, but I urge the people of this city to give serious consideration to what this can do to not only our existing laws, but to the population itself. Thank you.
I'd like to add to that a little bit, just a little bit. Having been a federal officer and dealt with marijuana as also a county probation officer, but I'm also part of that, or I've gone to several meetings of Rabbi Lang's anti-drug thing. And this is not the marijuana we had before, or everyone had before. This marijuana is many, many times stronger.
Maybe before.
Many, many times stronger.
Speak for yourself.
I'm not asking for admissions, but if you feel guilty, go ahead.
You said we all. If it didn't include us, it wasn't we all.
Anyway, this is one of those that it's much stronger now, and they also lace it with other things more than just making it the THC much more powerful. You see kids that were dying in L.A. when they went to a party and had this laced THC. I think it's a dangerous element to try to just add one more thing to the thing, the law enforcement. I think law enforcement can also tell you that a lot of the drunk driving cases stopped. You're going to find them there. They've been under the influence of something, some drug of some type, and not just alcohol. Okay. Charlotte?
Well, I attended all the meetings nobody else attended because I was on all these committees. The Vietnam Veteran Commemorative Ad Hoc Committee met, and we discussed plans for 3 of the next 4 events. I attended RDP 21, where a guy from the director of NOC Weapons, Naval Air Warfare Center, Point Mugu, spoke and painted a pretty bleak picture about the planes they use to not only take the drones out and deliver the drones when they're doing tests, but to clear the range. And whereas they used to have 7 or 8 planes, they're now down to 1. It's more than 50 years old. And they're getting another, but the one that was given to them, apparently they get things that the Navy has discarded. So they're getting a P-3 that is 50 years old, and its wing was bent. So it's in some place, I think in Texas, getting a new wing, but they're no longer manufacturing parts, so they have to find another one and take a wing off. Anyway, I thought it was a pretty bleak picture, so I'm sure that's something that RDP is going to be working on in the future. I also attended last night a Camarillo Ranch Foundation meeting, and they're moving along. They no longer have the financial problems they had a year ago with the new chief operating officer and a fundraiser. They're doing very well financially. In addition to that, they have last night they adopted an employee handbook, and the operations officer is getting things, I think, in order. They're moving toward their goal of being a governance model as opposed to a working board model, but it's taking longer, I think, than they had anticipated. But they are working toward that goal, so things are moving along there. Several meetings ago, I can't remember when it was, maybe July, maybe August, I had asked about that program, and we have 2 programs for putting money in and having things happen for water conservation. And one of them was where developers put in money, and we were going to start with, we were told at a council meeting, businesses and residential units that were older and had larger toilets. And then later we found out that businesses couldn't participate because the toilets that were selected didn't meet, or at least I was told, didn't meet the requirements for public restrooms for handicap. And I was wondering, what I had asked at the time, is it possible to do something, get some other kind of toilets for the small businesses that might need them so that we can still have businesses participate, and I never heard back.
The answer is we're pretty confident that we have found a solution, and we will report back to you when we can confirm that there is a similar product. So one of the things, of course, we're trying to achieve is with the low flush toilets is the ability to only have to flush it once, and we found a product that has been tested and that the consultant we're using has actually direct experience with on other contracts and are effective. We understand that he has found another product that does meet the ADA standards and has the same, basically, specifications and quality that we have been providing to the residents. We'll get an email out to you to confirm if that is, in fact, one that we can now start providing to commercial customers, and if we've started the outreach then to let businesses know that.
Good, because I still have my list of those people who called me about that couldn't participate. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Jen?
Well, I gave my speech last time about getting out to vote, totally forgetting that we met again in a week. But I'll give you the shorter version. Please remember to vote, because it is, as we all know, next Tuesday, and I'm sure it doesn't come any too soon for a lot of people. And one of my things I like least about the whole thing were all the signs all over town. And perhaps you can give us announce how long can those be out after the election, and how soon do they have to be picked up? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Got it in front of him.
Yeah.
This letter tells everyone that runs when they're supposed to pick them up.
And then the other question I would have is, what happens if they aren't removed by that period of time?
I think it's 7 days.
I think so too, but I wanted to get it officially.
He hasn't run as many times as we have.
7 business days?
Right.
7 business days. Mm-hmm. And then what happens if someone hasn't picked up their signs?
Then we'll notify them, and obviously if it's in the public right-of-way, we'll take them.
You'll pick them up. And if they're on private property, you notify the candidate or you notify the property owner?
We notify the property owner.
Property owner.
Technically, they're supposed to have the property owner's permission to place the sign.
And technically, that is true. They're not supposed to just be out on anybody's property.
Correct.
And
you know, if you're a loser sometime, just let you guys pick them up. See what I mean? I don't like city picking up people's signs.
But they're not. You only pick it up on the public right of way, right?
No, I know.
Which you would pick up anyway.
Yes, public right-of-way.
But now, can they pick up their own signs again after you've picked them up?
Put them back out again?
No, not put them. I didn't say that. I said into the election. Think what I'm talking about.
Oh.
Into the election, you pick them up. Can they pick their signs up again from you?
So if we picked up a sign today that was illegally placed in a public right-of-way, what I've implemented is a logging book where whoever picks it up puts the date, time, place, and location and reason in a logbook, so we can inform the candidate or the property owner the reason why that was removed. And then if the candidate or property owner come into City Hall and request their sign, we explain to them why we removed it and why they shouldn't be placing it illegally, and we return the sign.
They don't care. They just put them back out again.
But they have to actually come in. It's not like when they used to put them out in the trash enclosure and they just go pick them up.
Right. And we implemented that to kind of track it to see if there's repeat violations, any hot spots, and we've been trying to monitor it as best we can.
Good. I guess the other side of that I would say to people that if you look at the time and taxpayers' money, another one of those words that are probably become a buzzword, but how much money and time is spent because people put signs out illegally. Yep. So I would say to all the voters, you ought to take that into account when you go to vote, because if you can't follow the rules during an election, it ought to make you wonder.
I just have to add to this that it isn't always the candidate. There's what I call the Friday night dance of the signs.
Oh, they move them around? Well, that's
and
true,
those
too.
signs move into people's yards who don't want them. They move to people's yards who do want other candidates. And the candidates really don't have much control, and I don't think the candidates like that Friday night dance of the signs very well anyway. Because, you know, I've got a Monday morning crew whenever I'm running, and they go around 20 blocks maybe, whatever I've assigned to them, and they pick up the signs that are in the wrong place. But on Sunday, they're there because and Saturday, because they moved on Friday nights, especially when there are home football games.
Well, all right. I don't know. Maybe someday they'll have tracking devices and cameras built into them.
That's an
He had a shocking device.
Yeah, really. Well, sorry, and then I take it back. You have to excuse those that get moved on Friday night. I did have one other comment on when you were talking about the marijuana and the effect on the whole community, and it's particularly underage and even small children. It's just when you hear it and you see it, it's just, but it's also pets. That's one of the problems they have in Colorado, or the pets. They leave their whatever laying around and they eat it. Yeah. And the rise in the number of overdoses, and it's more lethal in obviously young children and animals, and it's really sad. I mean, it's just all these byproducts of it that you don't even think about.
It's terrible.
Come in, and it's so I always have to stand up for the pets. That's all I have.
Okay. Let's start at the bottom where Charlotte was the Vietnam Veterans Committee. We had a meeting again, and staff's doing a good job on helping put these things together and look at the long range. And we got some good entertainment coming up in the future, too. Cameron Ranch House meeting we had last night, and both Charlotte and I left something. I picked them up today. But she's explained to you some of the things that they've done, and we've gone through, and they're improving, so I won't go into that in details. We had the 7th year anniversary of the Naval Weapons Center at Point Mugu. Now, what made this is kind of special is that my dad came here, transferred here, as part of the guided missile unit, Nemesis. And there were 2 missiles out here, 1 and 2, in the very beginning. And that's how we ended up here. Then they set that center up. But now it's, if you ever want to see a museum and see all the sparrows, the harpoons, all the missiles, at Point Mugu in the main entrance, there's a little building on the right-hand side. That's where all the museum is for all the different missiles and things like that and the history of Point Mugu. It might be interesting for, if you haven't been there, to go.
It's a very interesting museum.
Anyway, that was a great ceremony. The Admiral was here, Rear Admiral, but Admiral was here and talked along with the Captain. The Captain's a great speaker. He did a good job. We have the Hall of Fame wall at the healthcare district. We did that this weekend. Add 2 more individuals to that wall. There was a good turnout. The room was full. Food truck. Now, we talked about the food trucks and all that stuff. Well, the food trucks event, it was Halloween this past week, and the kids were there, tons of kids with outfits on, ready to be judged, and the music, they had a band playing. It was getting cold. My wife said, she's a docent, she was working there too, but it was that rainy. It was a time after the rain, but it looked like more was coming. It didn't, thank goodness. But they had a great time, and the food was good, and I think they're going to try to enhance that and other events like that. I suggested one that we have no place now that really brings out the pumpkins. Like we had over here at the off Central, had the whole hill of pumpkins. Well, we don't have that anymore. And it might be a good idea to come and sell pumpkins along with the sea animals and the whole thing with one of these what do you call it? Food trucks. The food trucks. And if we had, that might be part of an event that could bring people in too, to buy pumpkins and all kinds of things. See turkeys, and I've seen this happen in other places, and it works out real well, especially for kids. That's all I have at this time. Oh yes, I did one tour. I had Wiblos came in again. It's the second one in the this last month, and they love touring around City Hall and talking to staff. You got to talk to them each time. And so I think it's a worthwhile cause for them to come and learn what we have here and to see what we've got here. Also, today, I did a government class at the high school. I do that every year. And the kids want to know, these are seniors in upper end his history class, and they want to know how they can come tour and see what kind of jobs they can look for in the future and so on and so forth. I said, just call City, and also they want a list of the different industries where they can go visit and see what they've got and, for the future and so on and so forth, and express interest in maybe being interns or whatever in the future as they're in college. So we'll get that list for them of some of those that I think would be appropriate. That's it. We will now recess to our study session and our closed session. Would the city council please come to order? Let the record reflect that all council members are present. Could we please rise for the flag salute? Mr. Little, would you lead us in the flag salute?
Happy to. Place your hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We had a presentation item that was handled earlier, so that one we will pass the presentations this evening and go straight to the public comment. These are items that are not on the agenda. Can't read that. Tiffany Lewis, sorry. There you go. You must have gone through Halloween.
I figured in my 30s people would take me more seriously with pink hair for some reason. First of all, thank you very much for hearing me this evening. I wanted to come here today to speak on something that a lot of parents and community members have been concerned about in the city, and that is traffic, especially traffic safety issues around schools. Monday, October 24th, in the Vaughn Shopping Center near Tierra Linda, a young boy was hit by a car. Unfortunately, this is something that we've seen several times over and over again, and the community really would like to do something about that. We're very lucky this young man didn't sustain any serious injuries, but unfortunately it may just be a matter of time until one of our little ones are taken from us, either because they're not paying attention, they're not being taught what the rules of the road are, either on foot or on bicycle, or that us as adults are not obeying the traffic rules. We're not being cognizant of the little ones that are around us. Maybe they don't see us. Maybe they're not old enough to understand, to look both ways and to pay attention. Either way, it's a community issue and something that we feel that we should work on together. Again, we don't want to see someone get hurt. The Mothers of Camarillo, which is a Facebook page, has band together for many things in this community, most recently some tragedies regarding domestic violence, raising money for the children that have lost their parents. 2 domestic violence victims in the last several weeks, unfortunately. And this is another item that is near and dear to our hearts, is keeping our children and community members as safe as possible. We would like to start a traffic safety task force, which would be community members, members of the council or the city, if they so wish, police, school districts, so on and so forth. We could discuss things intelligently. We know that we're not subject matter experts, we're parents, but we know that there's something that we have to do about this. And if that's walking door to door, knocking on the doors and providing education to the people in our community, or having elderly folks in our community volunteer as crossing guards, there are low-cost options for us, not just something that would cost the city. Whatever it is, we hope that as a community we can come up with something together that will keep our children and our citizens safe here in Camarillo.
What school was that the person was hit again?
That was Tierra Linda.
Tierra Linda.
Yes, in Mission Oaks.
Okay, because...
Pardon? Oh.
Okay, because you said there have been many hit there?
Throughout the city, there have been several children that have been hit.
Okay, we hadn't gotten that word that we had very many people struck in our city.
This was the one in the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
That was in the parking lot.
Yeah, and I'm sure the city as well as the police station has been receiving calls. We do know that sometimes people are hit and they don't report it, which is something that we need to let people know that they should do. But there are several people who have reported within the committee to myself or on Facebook pages or within groups of each other that people's children have been hit. And adults. I got hit myself in my community. I wasn't even on a busy street, and a gentleman hit me with his car while I was crossing the street jogging. And then he drove away. But I thought, well, I didn't report it either. I mean, I need education myself. I'm sure many of us do.
You might want to hook up with our police chief and see if there's some sort of program they can put you into.
We would love to.
Okay. Chief, you got one on your hands here now, Commander. By the way, you've got the Mothers of Camarillo, but there's also a site that just came on that I'm on it too now. It's called Dads of Camarillo.
Oh, yeah. We know about you guys.
Yeah. Well, you got to join us. Maybe we'll find out a lot of things to do in the
I
Camarillo.
have my husband here as well. He's a concerned citizen. I mean, we're all either parents or no kids, have kids in our neighborhood, grandparents, nieces, nephews, whatever, or even our own physical safety. It's something as a community, I think we're very, very strong in something that we can work together and find some sort of solution.
We love volunteers. Our community's made up of volunteers. We've got so many groups doing things. Maybe there's something we can be of assistance, and you guys can get plugged into some sort of a plan.
We would love that.
Commander, you got a volunteer group.
Does the city clerk have her number and stuff on the card?
It's right here.
Can you make sure she flagged that one, Jeffrey, so that we have that for that? Thank you.
Let me make sure she's got her phone number. Yep, it's there.
Great.
Thank you so much for listening this evening.
You bet. Thank you. I'm taking these in order as we got them. Matthew Lorimer.
Good evening, City Council and people at home. I have a couple questions tonight, basically. I want to speak to you about the song of the old firehouse. I heard there was a meeting with St. Mary Magdalene's School yesterday. You know, it's been for sale. We've been talking about this for 4 months. It's been vacant for 20 years. I really think we need to move on and get this resolved. The next thing I want to talk about, at the last City Council meeting, I talked about the golf course. This time I'm concerned about the county's looking at taking sand from Kiggis Creek to restore Broad Beach. The sand would be removed between Upland and Dauphin Road. The Oakland Star said that the county feels that this is an adequate alternative and source. I want to know the position of the City Council, considering this could be 2,200 trips over 3 to 5 months, could be up to 35 to 50 daily trips. And you know, a couple of you are running for City Council again, Kevin and Bill. And you know, people are running on this thing basically, less traffic congestion. You know, this isn't good. Moore Park had basically everybody just walking away from it, and now it seems like it's going to be in our community. I think we need to know if you've had meetings with the county. I think we need to know what your position on that is. Do you want that in our neighborhoods? And I think the public should have some idea if they want that out here. So maybe you can address that. The other thing I'd like to talk about, again, is drinking and driving. I know it's the third time I've talked about it, but sometimes you got to make sure the community is aware. You know, if you're a bartender or you take your friend and you're drinking somewhere in this community, don't drink and drive. Have a friend, take a taxi. We got to remind the public. It's more than just putting words in the paper. You know, it's important to remind the public to be safe. And the thing is, if you are a bar or you're having a party, you know, talk about a solution. Let's make sure somebody is a designated driver. And I think it's important to keep talking about it. I've talked about it the third time because I think it's adequate, it's important. It's not just words in a paper, but when people come out and talk about it, people at home watch it. You know, I hope the local media will maybe put a little spot in there, and maybe we can just keep reminding the community, you know, the high schools, everybody, because we want everybody to come home. You know, we've had enough tragedy in this community. So I think it's important that we just keep talking about it. And so that's why I've talked about it again. Thank you very much.
Before we go any further, Mr. City Manager, he mentioned one topic, and I'd like to see if we have been notified about the sand being taken out of the...
Yeah, the Assistant City Manager has been on top of this issue, and he can explain it thoroughly.
Your Honor, yes, and actually this is a good topic to surface since an article just came out about this, and there may be some confusion over what the intent is. And I'll take you back to when we had the FEMA maps the new FEMA maps adopted for Camarillo. There were a lot of homes that were identified that were in a floodplain, and we worked to have those homes, the maps revised so they weren't in a floodplain. And there's one critical segment of Cayugas Creek from Upland Road down to Adolfo that while we do have some potential flood risks, as long as the creek is maintained in its design condition, the floor of the creek is at the right elevation, the homes are not at flood risk on both sides of the creek. However, that happens to be a section that from time to time sediment builds up, sand builds up, and you can kind of watch underneath the Upland Bridge. You can see how the room for water to clear under that bridge gets constrained as that sand builds up. So that segment, or Cayugas Creek, is maintained by the Watershed Protection District, and when we start to see the sand build up, we ask that they do a sand removal project, a sediment removal project. And that's usually every 5 to 10 years, a project like that needs to be performed. And usually what happens is we approach the Watershed District, and like any agency, they have limited funding sources, and it's a fairly expensive effort for them to remove sand. And so usually when we approach them, it takes several years for them to put a budget together and a project together, and but it's essential to maintain the flood safety. This is not the first time we've had sand removed. It's, again, done periodically every 5 to 10 years. And when it's been done in the past, the operation is set up where the truck trips and sand removal is over a period of time during the dry season so that it's not concentrated too much to cause traffic problems. We haven't had complaints in the past. People have been fine with the operation. And that's exactly what's intended. And in fact, we approached the Watershed District and said, folks, it's time again. It's been more than 5 years. We've seen the sediment build up. We're concerned about flood risk. And so what they're looking for is a win-win. Since the sand needs to be removed anyhow, and it's expensive if you remove it and don't have anywhere to deposit it, you have to pay to dispose of it. But if they can turn around and deliver it to Malibu and have them pay for it, then that helps reduce the budget and speed up the schedule for the project. So they're not, this is not what was proposed before, where all the sand would be mined in one area for the beach. Instead, the county's now looking for where are different sources. And if this is a location that they have to remove sand anyhow, let's find a use for it. Let's put it somewhere and save money. That's what's happening. So Cayugas Creek is not going to turn into a mine. This is truly just a flood protection project that's going to happen anyhow. It just happens to be combined with another opportunity, and that's what's happening.
And wherever the sand goes, it's got to go somewhere out of there.
It's got to go somewhere, so if it can go to Malibu and Malibu can pay for some of this work, then even better.
And we've been here before, Charlotte and I have, when they've cleaned it out, and no one said one word, because it helps keep flooding from happening over there with the homes. That's what that's for, prevention. And so I think it's a win-win both ways. Okay, Bill, you had something to say?
I was just going to say that that occurred during the time I was city manager.
Turn your phone.
But that occurred when I was city manager.
Definitely needs to be done.
Yes.
I don't know who turns it off, but they do. Anyway, that I'm aware of that, and it was an expensive operation for the flood control district to do that.
Okay. Now we have Tony Tremblay. Tony, I didn't take you out of line. I just put how I got him.
Good evening, Mayor Morgan and members of the council. Tony Tremblay. I want to raise two items with you this evening briefly. The first is on the Camarillo Springs Golf Course matter. I read a very disturbing, and that's how I would characterize it, article in this morning's Ventura County Star regarding the new property owner and the MO that owner has employed in other areas. We don't know what may be proposed, but I personally have very serious concerns about any change of use or any development on that existing golf course property. So I have two specific requests for you this evening. And I realize it's not on the agenda tonight, but first of all, I would request that you ask the city manager to provide a brief status report tonight on any meetings that have occurred with the property owner or with the homeowners association since the last council meeting. Secondly, if the owner files a general plan amendment request to be considered in December, that the council directs staff to provide absolutely as much notice, advance notice as possible to the public, and more than you might usually provide, both to Camarillo Springs residents and to the entire city before the general plan amendment request is heard in December, so citizens can weigh in. And one thing you might employ is on your current website, I know it hasn't been revamped yet, there would be a space for a special noticing section on that. Secondly, on council outreach to the public, and I've provided you with copies, just the face page, of a really terrific manual called the Public Engagement and Noticing Manual, published by the City of San Luis Obispo late last year and featured by the League of California Cities. And the purpose of the manual is a toolkit to increase participation and to add new voices to the discussions that we have on our current issues here at the council. And it gives some great ideas. If you haven't yet seen it, I would commend it to your attention because it gives some great ideas. Workshops, town hall meetings, establishing an online open city hall to increase community input. And it has been nominated for an award at League of Cities, and I think it's an extremely good and valuable manual. So my specific request is that the council hold a study session to review that manual and ask city staff to implement some or all of the ideas in the manual. Thank you for your attention.
Just so you know, we've been in touch with the people out there in Camp Springs. They call us because they got the same letter we did, what, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks max, that they get the letter from the new owners saying what they think they want to do.
Yes.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get it done because they got to go through us. And anyway, when we find out what's going on, I've got a meeting already set up with them at the homeowner association down there. And to discuss the whole thing, what's going on, let them know where we are.
And may I ask, Mr. Mayor, when that meeting is supposed to occur?
When we hadn't even heard anything about it yet.
Oh, it hasn't been scheduled yet?
No. No, we haven't even heard anything from the developer yet except that letter. So when we get that, then we can make those kinds of judgments.
Okay, thank you.
Kelly Long.
Hello, Mayor, City Council members, and Board. I am here as the Pleasant Valley School Board. My name is Kelly Long. I live here in Camarillo, and I wanted to just thank you very much for the assistance our public service has given to our school district. We have had a couple events coming up in the school district with the domestic violence issues, our student that was hit on the bike, and several other items. And it has been really important that we have that partnership with our police force and making sure that our kids are safe and that there's that communication and collaboration. I know a lot of instances, kids are texting and finding out all the latest information. And so when our school district has the same information, it's very helpful. And we can communicate out as needed, depending on what's going on. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for what has been going on. And I look forward to, in the future, having that support to make sure that our new superintendent is able to have that backing of our police force. And so I just wanted to say thank you very much. It has been very trying for our families. I just went to a funeral last night, and it's a hard time. So if anyone is having domestic violence issues or just help in parenting and so forth, if you can call the 211 number with Interface, it's extremely important that we don't get to that last result, that we actually get help for preventative issues. And I urge everyone for that. Along with it, as the young lady had spoke to today about safety. Safety right now is crucial, right? We have to make sure our kids are getting to and from school safe. One of the issues that we were just talking about with the Caligas Creek, if we're going to have a lot more trucks, and there are schools in that area, if we can make sure that whatever your passage is for those trucks, that the kids are going to be safe. So whatever your plan is, make sure you include us. We really would appreciate that, and thank you very much.
Well, I got a question for you while you're here.
Yeah.
There was a water well on Tierra Linda they were digging, Camarosa was. Did that work out to be a well that works?
I'm not sure about that. I believe so. I haven't heard that it doesn't work.
The last thing we'll say is that safety-wise, that's the first thing this council looks at. And as we said earlier, we've had these cleanouts before, no problems. no one can complain because it keeps you from flooding the area. Homes getting flooded.
Right.
And that's what all the safety things we look at before we do anything. And we consult with our police. That's one of the best police departments in the state.
Well,
It's what we've got now.
And we appreciate it. But one note, just because I forgot to mention it, is on the traffic. We are noticing that it's not neighborhood schools anymore. We have such great schools and such diversity that our families are traveling back and forth from the cities. So it's not just a walk to school. We're having a lot more traffic issues because we have two parents that are working jobs that are dropping their kids off on their way to school, which also creates congestion. Sometimes a little frenzy because they get nervous or there's a play or parking and all that kind of stuff. So just make sure you're aware of that. I would appreciate it.
Where Fairfield goes all the way through and ends up Terralinda, we know all about that jam.
Oh, yeah.
So we're very much, the city is very much familiar with all our problem areas.
Okay. Well, thank you. And again, I appreciate it. If you guys ever want to meet, my superintendent would love it. So thank you.
Thank you. I have no more cards this evening. For public hearings, we'll move to departmental items. Tom? I'm sorry, who's it? Is it Tom or is it?
It'll be me, Mayor.
Joe. Yeah, Joe, you're right.
So Renee Mario, our building official, will provide a brief presentation on this item.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Every 3 years, the state of California updates the building codes. By state mandate, all of the revised codes go into effect 6 months after adoption by the state. So the new codes were adopted by the state July 1 of this year, and so will go into effect January 1st of 2017. The state allows local jurisdictions to make amendments to the codes for 4 reasons: administrative, geologic, climatic, and topographic. With the exception of administrative amendments, any local amendment may not be less restrictive than the state code. Administrative amendments may include the amount of time allowed for a permit to expire or the amount of fees collected for permits. An example of a geologic amendment would be requiring 27-inch deep minimum footings because Camarillo has expansive soils. There were not a lot of significant changes to the code this cycle. The city's previous local amendments were brought forward with this code adoption. We're asking the council to waive further reading and introduce an ordinance adopting certain codes by reference and setting a public hearing for adoption of the ordinance for November 16th, 2016.
Questions?
I have a question.
Bill?
You said there's not too many significant changes. Is there any that you would like to call out to the public?
Sure. The state is still following a mandate by Governor Schwarzenegger that single-family dwellings create a zero carbon footprint by 2020 and commercial buildings by 2030. So as each 3-year code cycle comes, the code on the energy gets tighter and tighter and tighter so that we can save energy in our buildings. They have estimated that on a brand new house, it would cost about $2,700 for the new implementation of the new code, but will save $7,400 in energy and maintenance costs. They break that down on an average 30-year mortgage. It's going to cost you about $11 per month more, but you're going to save roughly about $31 in energy savings. So those things are definitely becoming a little bit more restrictive. On the green building code side, there's been a mandate that we've all been working with for a 50% recycling of construction debris. That's going to 65% January 1st. So just each year, each 3-year code cycle, we're getting a little more energy efficient.
Kevin?
Is there anything on the water, changing anything with that?
So they're in the green building code and the plumbing code, they are tightening up some of the water fixture usage. They have gone to an option on the green building code to put in a hot water recirculating system, but we've already addressed that here with an ordinance last year for hot water recycling systems. So It's not significant amount of water, they just tighten it a little bit up.
Now, the cost of that is, what's it, a couple, $200-300 to put that, if you've already got a water heater in that does not have it, to get that installed, bought and installed, around
Probably about
$300?
$200 to $300 for some of the retrofit kits I've seen, and they estimate it saves about 31 gallons of water a day.
Just other questions? I have one. Have you seen the new solar cells that Tesla and Solar City have come together to make? They look like roof shingles.
I just saw the news brief the other night. I did not know Tesla was working on the shingles. I did know they were working on the Powerwall, which I believe will make a huge difference and encourage people to put solar on the roofs when they can store the power.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. When you're going to change your roof, you might as well go solar.
Yeah.
Because now it's going to look different. A lot of ladies don't like that look. My wife's one of them, of the solar cells that look like, mirrors kind of thing. But this, I think, is going to sell a whole lot of people with these new cells that'll cover your roofs. I'm sorry, Bill. I missed you. You had a question?
Well, I'm just going to say that's a Tesla product.
Right.
Tesla.
Does it come with the Tesla?
Well,
it was,
maybe able to get one if you buy the big.
Cost as much as
right now,
one.
if you want to know, call Solar City and see where they are, see how soon you can get one. Other questions? Anything?
No, I just have, I guess a question, but a comment. From reading it, there really wasn't anything that's not doable. As you say, it's just a few minor changes. It seems like we just did this. It's hard to believe it's been 3 years. But I didn't see anything that really stood out that wasn't something that could be easily accomplished. And
No, they're really not very significant changes, at least nothing that I've been made aware of at this point.
Well, so the public knows a lot of our codes are codes that are drafted first by the state before it gets to us. Then we kind of just okay them because there's not much more we can do. That's what we're doing this evening. It's a follow-up to make sure our codes are all up to date. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, any motions?
I'm going to request reading the title.
Second.
We get a request for reading the title.
Did we ask if there's any members of the public that wanted to comment? You don't have a card?
Pardon?
You don't have any cards?
No.
Okay. Then I'm going to read the title. It's ordinance number 1032. This should take about a half an hour. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Camarillo, California, amending Chapter 16.04 of the Camarillo Municipal Code and adopting by reference the following model codes into the Camarillo Municipal Code. 1. California Building Code, Volumes 1 and 2, 2016 edition, with appendices B, C, I, and J. 2. California Electrical Code, 2016 edition. 3. California Plumbing Code, 2016 edition with Appendix K. 4. California Maintenance Code, 2015 edition. 6. California Administrative Code, 2016 edition. 7. California Energy Code, 2016 edition. 8. California Reference Standards, 2016 edition. 9. California Existing Building Code, 2016 edition. 10. California Residential Code, 2016 edition, with appendices G and H. 11. California Green Building Standards Code, 2016 edition, and making amendments based upon local climatic, topographic, and geographic conditions.
Move to waive further reading of the ordinance and introduce an ordinance adopting certain codes by reference and setting a public hearing on adoption of such ordinances for November 16th, 2016.
Second motion.
Which just got the second?
I'll withdraw.
Bill did the second. Okay, please vote. That motion passes 5-0. We have no other items on our agenda. Does anyone wish to
Closed
say anything?
session.
We do. I'm talking about regular agenda, but we do have to move to a closed session with our attorney. So at this time, we will adjourn our regular meeting to go to closed session.
Recess.
Well, we'll recess, but we're not coming back.